All right, welcome everybody. We're going to get started now. I'm going to hand things over to Jessica from the Programs Committee to kick things off.
All right, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Common Sense Sustainability, Overcoming Barriers for Sustainable Schools. My name is Jessica Haberstock, and I'm an associate and the Building Sector Sustainability Leader at TY Lin. Today's program was produced by the Illinois Green Alliance Programs Committee, a volunteer group that leads the selection, development, and implementation of Illinois Green's education events. The team that organized today's event includes Shivani Shakur and myself. Everyone has been muted upon entry. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this program, so feel free to type your questions into the Q&A chat, and we will answer them at the end of today's presentation. And next slide. Thank you. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Illinois Green Alliance is a membership-driven nonprofit that advances sustainability in the built environment to ensure greener and healthier communities across the state. Their 2050 vision is to make net zero buildings feasible, affordable, and so commonplace that every building in the state is net zero by 2050. They accomplish this work through three key pillars: educating building industry professionals through webinars like this one, panels, and tours, advancing policy to scale energy efficiency and net zero adoption, and demonstrating that high-performance buildings can work anywhere. Their members represent every sector in the building industry, from architects and engineers to building owners and construction professionals. You can learn more about membership, check out upcoming events, and learn how to get involved by visiting their website, illinoisgreenalliance.org. This webinar is approved through AIA for one LUHSW credit and can be logged for one LEED AP or Green Associate CE hour. Certificates of completion for both AIA members and non-AIA members are available upon request. And to request a AIA continuing education credit and/or a personalized certificate of completion for architecture license CE reporting purposes, follow the QR code on your screen and complete the linked form. I'll also be linking the form in the chat now and at the end of the session. For those interested in self-reporting CE hours for your LEED AP or LEED Green Associate credentials, we will be sharing self-reporting instructions and a fillable certificate of completion in our follow-up email to all attendees next week through Eventbrite. And here are today's AIA learning objectives. And before we get started, we wanted to thank Illinois Green's sustaining sponsors who make all of the work possible. A special thank you to their gold level sponsors, ComEd, USGBC, and Sloan. Now let's get started with today's program. I'd like to introduce you to our fantastic set of speakers. Nolan Amos is a passionate mechanical engineer with over 10 years of experience at CMTA, a company driving energy efficient solutions. Specializing in designing high-performance K-12 learning environments, Nolan is committed to creating healthier, more sustainable spaces for students. By leveraging cutting-edge engineering practices, Nolan champions energy efficiency and sustainability in the built environment, fostering a brighter future for the next generation. Josh Bergman endeavors to be an architectural Swiss Army knife, filling any role or responsibility in any project type or project phase. Using this approach, he says, "The projects that I want to work on next are the ones that I haven't done before. I love being in a room where I don't know the answers." A part of this is also tailoring every solution to unique circumstances of the opportunity. So remember that we will have a Q&A session at the end of this program, so feel free to add your questions into the Q&A box, and our speakers will address them at the end. And with that, I will pass things off to our speakers.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. We're really excited to get this presentation going. And we're talking today about common sense, overcoming barriers for sustainable schools. What does that mean? How do we overcome these barriers? How do we create more sustainable schools? So, learning objectives for today. So, today we're going to talk about and explore high performance building design. What does that mean in school projects? We want to emphasize scalable, accessible approaches that can be applied across different market sectors. But primarily today, we're talking about K-12. We're going to analyze how indoor environmental quality and holistic building strategies can be used throughout the building. How do we increase daylighting? How do we make the acoustics better, bring in more fresh air, provide better thermal comfort? We want to create healthier learning environments that enhance educational outcomes and student well-being. We will also want to leverage community collaboration, develop people-centered design solutions that prioritize inclusion, equity, and accessibility. And then finally, we want to identify strategies for overcoming cost prohibitive and systemic challenges and implementing these high performance solutions. How are we going to overcome those barriers? We want to focus on scalability and equitable applications that can extend beyond just a K-12 market sector. So here presenting today is myself, Nolan Amos, with CMTA, and Josh Bergman, our architect on Forrestal Elementary, with Perkins Eastman. And it might just be two of us presenting today, but behind us is an army of helpers, and people helping push the boundaries in sustainability, K-12, and beyond. So, it wouldn't be we wouldn't be where we're at today without, the help of everyone else involved.
Um, Good afternoon, everyone. This is Josh Bergman with Perkins Eastman. Thanks for the great intros. It's fun to be in the room together. We wanted to just show you a little bit about when we talk about high performance sustainable schools, kind of what that really means. This is a school that we finished in DC, John Lewis Elementary School, which we think of as having sort of the quadfecta of sustainability. It has it's LEED Platinum, it's ILFI Zero Energy certified, it's WELL Platinum, as well as it's received the AA Coat Top 10 award. And also just from this image here, this is the library of the school at the heart of the school, which seems like a fun, fantastic, amazing place to learn. So we'll show you another school here. This is Benjamin Banneker High School, also in DC. This one currently has its LEED platinum certification. It's pursuing other certifications as well, including zero energy as well. It just takes, as we all know, it takes a little time to get those. But this is the main arrival for that high school in DC. We're not all we don't just do work in DC. We do it in other places too. This is a new elementary school that Nolan and I and our teams are building in the North Chicago suburbs. This is at the Naval Station Great Lakes, in the north suburb of Great Lakes, Illinois, which is the school will open to staff in May, and so next month, and then I'll welcome students in the fall of this year, which is great. So in images here, you can see just the arrival from the street, main entrance, as well as in the upper right corner, you can see the photovoltaic panels that will help power the building. We'll show you another view here. This is the bus drop-off for the building. The kind of the entrance that we were looking at in the previous slide is on the upper left-hand corner there. So in the bus, it's on naval property, which is cool. And what's great about that is the Navy loaned us a great anchor from a ship, the USS Topeka, which we placed in the bus drop off there, which is kind of cool and fun and kind of a fun place to arrive for students. But also at that bus drop off is below that are our geothermal wells. And so there's roughly about 80 or so geothermal wells here that go about 500 feet deep or so that will help with the thermal comfort for the building. So this is cool. We'll go inside the building here for a minute. I think that what it's this is the library for the at the heart of school for our for Forrestal, which is cool. It's the main feature is this council ring that sort of mimics that of sitting around a campfire together. So it's roughly sized for a classroom or so of folks, which is kind of fun and playful and joyful. I think that one of the things I think we don't talk about enough is about the joy of learning, and so I think this space tries to capture that, as well as you couple that with the interior environments that are really important, as well as daylighting, which you can see the windows and views that are here, which are impactful to us. With every project that we do, we have a sort of an approach that we bring to that, which we like to call net positive education. And what that is, it's really a combination of two things together. It's building performance and health and wellness. So building performance, meaning energy efficiency, net zero, and just energy, reduce energy costs, as well as health and wellness. So basically the interior health, healthy environments for the building. Those two things together combine to be what we think call as net positive education, because we think of the energy efficiency of the building plus the healthy environment as being a great synergy that provides a great place to learn.
So let's look at the first part of those ingredients, the building performance. How do we make these energy efficient learning environments? And so looking at what we did on Forrestal, we're trying to reduce as much energy usage in the building as possible, right? So we're starting with our big mechanical systems and our plants with that. So on Forrestal, we used a geothermal system. So the geothermal system is absorbing heat from the ground, bringing that into the building loop, which then can be used for heating and cooling the building. But we're also rejecting heat to the ground when needed, depending on summer or winter. So we're circulating water down through the pipes in the ground, coming back out with our base mounted pumps in the mechanical room. Coming inside, we really need a tight envelope. The tighter envelope, the better, because we don't want to be letting conditioned air get to the outside. So that you're always going to have, some little level of conditioned air that escapes. You want your buildings to be positive, but the less air that conditioned air that can escape the envelope, the better. And then our heating and cooling. We heat and cool the building with water source heat pumps. These water source heat pumps are very efficient, very residential in nature. They have, the single compressor evaporator connecting straight to the geothermal loop and circulating water throughout the building. So our water source heat pumps are a backbone that really heat and cool the classrooms and different spaces. And then lastly, we have the solar PVs on the roof that help us harness some of the sun's energy, turn that into electricity, and use that throughout the building to be able to reduce our energy consumption on the grid.
To go back to the health and wellness portion of this, I think fundamentally, I think we all understand that good food is healthy for our bodies. The interior environments that we occupy are exactly the same way. Healthy interior environments are good for us. Unhealthy environments are bad for us. That's why they don't teach kindergarten coal mines, because it's not a great place to learn. And so some of the most important ingredients for how to provide a healthy learning environment are really the four pieces that are on the screen here. Daylighting, thermal comfort, acoustics, and air quality. If you'll indulge me, I just want to read the small text for this because it's meaningful and impactful. So under daylighting, students in daylit classrooms progressed 20% faster on math tests and 26% faster on reading tests. Thermal comfort. Uncomfortable temperatures can cause feelings of fatigue, irritability, and depression. Acoustics. Students at a school in the regular flight path performed 20% lower on a reading test. Air quality. students in classrooms with higher air ventilation scored 14 to 15% higher on standard tests. So if I can, if I can see the teacher, I'm at a comfortable temperature. If I can hear the teacher and they can hear me, and the air quality is good such that there's not, CO2 levels building up such I get sleepy in class. All of those things together combined to help to get me alert and ready and engaged to learn. So all of this, we know all of these pieces, like the stats that I just read off is because we do research on this. This is one of a number of studies we've done. This is with DC Public Schools, Baltimore City Public Schools, Drexel University, that really looked at the correlation between the built environment and educational outcomes, i.e. what matters in what we build to produce positive outcomes for education. And so the four things that we just highlighted are were some of the key takeaways from this study. Other things that are that complement that are community and many other factors, but it's a fantastic research study. There's a QR code there at the bottom right. I think we'll also share in the as Jessica mentioned in the notes maybe after this with kind of links to this information. But it's yeah, great fun stuff.
Okay, so we know the ingredients. We need to bring in sustainable mechanical solutions, reduce our energy usage. We need to make sure that we have healthy environments, good CO2 levels. We need to have daylighting. We need to have good acoustics. But how do we actually bring all of those together? How do we get this done? How do we convince the owner that, this is better for the students and better for the children? And so that's what we're going to dive into here. There are a lot of barriers that come into the way of this, and how do we overcome those barriers? So we want to take a minute here and go through all of those barriers. And then after we kind of talk about the barriers here, we want to hear from you all and understand what barriers you guys might be facing and might have in implementing sustainable and high performance solutions. Um, and so the first one, obviously, everyone has this on the top of their brain, cost. This has to be more expensive. It's a high performance mechanical system. It's got to be more expensive. We can't afford the envelope test, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to cost more. We just don't have the budget for that. And then, do these systems actually work? Does geothermal work? Do water source heat pumps work? Can we work on this? Our maintenance staff isn't, familiar with this. Can this system actually work? And then you also have people saying we don't need a Ferrari. We don't want, the high tricked out car. We just need the Honda Civic that can weather any storm, that can, make it through all of life's events. Touching back, how do we maintain this? Can we maintain this? We don't have geothermal. It seems like a high tech solution. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to maintain heat pumps. We've never had a DOAS unit before. We don't know what that is. How do we possibly maintain this? And then we don't have the square footage for the geothermal well field. We don't have square footage to take heat pumps out of classrooms. We don't have square footage to provide extra square footage for mechanical spaces and acoustic spaces. We just want to put all of those units up in the ceiling. And then we have some more.
Yeah, there are more. These are other barriers that we have come across that we know about. Which, just to starting from the left, we don't have systems like this now. So what, we don't have systems like this now. So why would we want to incorporate something new into our building? We like what we tried and tested all along. Sometimes we hear VRF is the best thing there ever was, and so they just want to keep doing VRF. Another barrier is, will these systems actually perform as intended? We do energy models and other things like this. How do we know? I think clients and others quite often hear horror stories of design not living up to expectations, and so question we get is, will these systems actually perform as intended? Another one is related to the cost. Is, will we actually receive rebates and credits that we might be relying on to fund this work? The next one being, we've never done a net zero project before. We're nervous about that. We're apprehensive about it. Can I don't know how to be successful on that path. And then the last one for us is sustainability, a dirty word in Illinois. Some rooms we're in, what we hear is that they haven't done a LEED project in ages. And so those are the barriers that we have come across recently. But most importantly, I think what we wanted to hear was from the group here. And so please, in the chat, maybe drop in any other barriers that you guys have come across in the pathway of doing this kind of work, whether it be net zero or high performance or just sustainability in general. What are the things that you're hearing in rooms that sort of get in the way of us doing more of this work?
So I'm just going to read a few of them out if you guys want to throw them in. We have basically people saying that they're not interested, it doesn't fit with the mission, that they're not an environmental school, clients not understanding the importance of sustainability, that cost and kind of the status quo bias, sustainability going against the client's standards specific to healthy materials. They don't have qualified maintenance staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, admin or like senior staff not pushing for this in their projects. Life cycle costs, they're not looking at that because capital and operating budgets are two separate silos. Asking people to simplify, they don't want to reinvent the wheel. Lots of good ones in here.
Yeah, these are fantastic. I love this. This is good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, so we'll try and touch on some of those as we keep going forward.
So I think the way we have the strategy we look at sort of how we overcome these barriers. We kind of think out about it as sort of as 5 different categories or maybe 5 different steps that how we do this. And just to go through each one of these steps, the first one is to demonstrate that high performance is the right approach to use. This is really maybe the biggest hurdle in the first one we all have to overcome. But the argument that we really focus on is really cost, simplicity, longevity, and safety. I think we can demonstrate. We'll dig into this in more detail in a moment. But just basically, I think we believe that these systems are less expensive, they're simpler to operate, they last longer, and they're safer. And so it characterizing in that light has been very beneficial and useful for us in these rooms. So once we do that, the next piece was just developing a path to implement these systems successfully, and then creating an ecosystem for input, being transparent, and also being careful with language. I'll talk more about what that means in a minute. And then we validate performance and avoid pitfalls. So we want to make sure the most important thing is that we deliver these systems that function in the way that are intended to our client group. And so it's just absolutely about validating performance. And then lastly, it's just about enjoying the pleasant surprises along the way. There are surprising things that happen through this process. And I think that it's just, it's helpful to just to celebrate those things along the way. So
let's dive in. Let's start with cost. It's a big driver here. So looking at operational costs over time, looking at the life cycle cost analysis here, we analyzed the initial upfront cost. We analyzed the overall maintenance year-to-year cost with escalation. We also looked at the equipment replacement cost after end of life with escalation. And we also looked at green energy tax credits and options there that we are pursuing. Um, so starting here on the left side, we have our initial upfront cost. So you can kind of follow the colors here. Basically, the lowest upfront cost is the existing building. And basically, we estimated that existing mechanical system to be at $6.3 million. And then going forward, the code minimum was 7 million. The lead certified was 8.4 million, and the high performance building was at a $9.6 million first cost. And that was based on estimates from um, going through the process on Forestall. These data was from Forestall here. Um, and so looking at this, the high performance new building has a lower um, maintenance cost, lower energy cost. That was also factored in here, the energy cost as well. So lower energy cost, lower maintenance cost over the life of the building. We had the one equipment replacement at 20 years. That's where that blue asterisk is. So the jump ups are the equipment replacements. That's costing money and going up. So over the course of 30 years, that high performance building is $7 million under where they would be if they kept the existing building, and about $4 million under what would be a new code minimum building. And then with the current tax incentives out there and using geothermal and solar PV arrays, we're able to get a $3.2 million tax credit with our systems, which drastically reduces our overall 30-year cost from an existing building at $21.1 million to $11.5 million, almost a total savings of over $10 million over the course of 30 years. And even looking there at a code minimum building to a high performance building with the green energy tax credits, you're saving $7.3 million over the course of 30 years. That's a lot of money that the district can put back into educating the students. Districts are not in the business of owning a really high tech HVAC system. They're in the building of educating students, and that's money that they can directly use to put back into that education. So, in doing that and having the high performance system, we're implementing geothermal wells, which offer a resilient solution uh, and a long lifespan, 50 to 70 years. Those are all underground, so any tornado events, any rain events, or different things, as we've seen over the past week, does not have an impact on those geothermal wells, and we're constantly getting those ground temperatures to be able to absorb and reject heat too. There's little to no maintenance required with that. Basically, you just need your base mounted pumps to be able to circulate the water through. For the tight envelope, you're going to have a lifespan of about 30 to 50 years. Little to no maintenance required on that envelope. And again, we try and shoot for a 0.15 CFM per square foot or better on that envelope to make sure we're not letting conditioned air out into the atmosphere. And then our water source heat pumps for thermal comfort. Typically, we're tracking about a 20-year lifespan on those. Very residential in nature, very easy to maintain. You're basically replacing your filters, cleaning out your strainers, and that's about it. We try and make those accessible and as easy to maintain as possible. And then the solar panels on the roof. Typically, we're seeing about a 30-year lifespan. Um, if you're going to go net zero, sometimes you won't have all of the roof span that you need, and you need to go to a carport or ground mounted or different things like that, but also little to no maintenance on those as well. Um, Overall, with the geothermal and water source heat pump system, Josh talks about healthier buildings. We circulate just water throughout the building instead of a lot of different flammable refrigerants. And so we think that if there ever were to be a pipe that leaked or something, you only have water throughout the building instead of a flammable refrigerant. So overall, it gives you a good look at cost, simplicity, longevity. This works in school buildings that will be there for 30 to 50 to 70 years.
And then just to reiterate, I think what Nolan was saying about just, that's sort of kind of the core argument about how we see how we get over this high performance net zero hurdle with client groups. And it really just focuses around cost, simplicity, longevity, and safety. And so say once we get over that hurdle, the next really thing is just focusing on developing a plan to implement that approach successfully. And so what we found to be effective with school districts is just to build a long ramp to success. Quite often, these are, as we mentioned, systems or approaches that are new to school districts. And so it takes time for them to get comfortable and with them and implement them. And so just we built a long ramp for them to sort of get up to speed on these systems. And so let's walk up this ramp together, I guess. So that first it starts off with just exposure to net zero high performance systems. And quite often what we try and do is bring school districts to our projects that are net zero or high performance. This includes superintendents, the business officials, and especially the maintenance team. If you get those three parties to visit a school and meet those counterparts in another school that has these kind of systems, those are the most important voices they want to hear. Is they want to hear from the superintendent and the maintenance staff about how effective these systems are for them. And those words mean are gold for us. And gold for the new client basically that may be implementing these systems. So then once we expose to the systems, once they decide they want to pursue them, it's really the decision, which is the star to proceed with net zero or high performance. Once they do that, then that really sets us on the path of determining what the needs and opportunities are. So we want to meet with lots of folks. We'll talk about that more in a second. But just understanding what calibrating the systems and approaches to the needs of the school, and this is a part of the design process, doing cost analysis along the way to make good decisions. And then once we sort of finalize the design, we start construction. And so then once we start construction, the ramp, the steps change a little bit to it's really focused more on performance validation to making sure we're delivering on what we designed and what we planned around. But it also includes training with the maintenance team. These systems, as they start to become in place during construction, whether it be geothermal wells or the water source heat pumps or all of those, as those systems start to become in place, it's great opportunities for the maintenance team to build their knowledge base and their understanding about how to operate these buildings. And then we get to construction finishes, we get to school occupancy, and what we think of the school occupancy is quite often a soft handoff to the school. So it's not like, oh, hey, building's done, hand over the keys, day one you have to operate this thing. It's really a soft handoff, and what we will quite often do is keep say the mechanical team on board from the mechanical team from the construction contracting group on board to help the maintenance staff over, say, a year or some defined period to sort of such that it can help hands-on training for the handing off of that school operations. So ultimately, the actual full handover to the school is later than that. So maybe that gets a year or change after the actual school construction is finished. And so in this long map, it's basically 4, 5, 6 or more years from the start once we start these conversations to the full handover to the school. So it gives them a long way to get comfortable and build their knowledge base and sort of just be comfortable with these systems and to be successful with them. And so within the long ramp, I think part of it is just getting the right teams in the room to sort of do this such that we can all go the ramp together. And so on the school teams, it's quite often administrators, finance folks, maintenance team, teachers, food service, school board, owners reps, and beyond, as well as the stakeholder teams, including the community partners, neighbors, and beyond. Design team, we want to make sure that our design team has familiarity with these systems. It's Nolan's team and the CMTA team have deep expertise in these categories, as do we, and so it's a combined team that can do this kind of work. And then also we just want construction teams that have built these systems before, so it's really helpful. So especially the developing a tight envelope, it's not easy to do, and sort of higher than what your typical project does. The next piece into implementing this path successfully is just right sizing and coordinating the systems to deliver the best value and performance for our client groups. Quite often, Nolan and his team will do an energy model. We also, as the architectural design team, we also do an energy model. So we both have energy models that are evaluating what are the best choices we can make. And so, for example, one of the key discoveries we have for work in Illinois is calibrating and right sizing the wall assembly to suit the HVAC system. So a very efficient HVAC system with water source heat pumps can result in us maybe reducing the insulation and glass painting needs. So like what the sweet spot we found in Illinois so far is if we have water source heat pumps, we can do R20, R25 for insulation in the walls, and then we can do a dual pane glass in the windows. In other areas of the country, like in Boston, where we're doing work there, the argument for triple pane glass is better than it is here. But ultimately, this as we all know here, it's just calibrating the systems and approach for value in the place where we're building this. Other ingredients we found that are helpful for us in Illinois are just the window wall ratio of around 25%. And then also, we're preaching the choir here, but I think that just healthy materials quite often, in many cases, don't require any added upfront or maintenance costs. You can get paint and ceiling tiles that have great sustainability without any extra costs. The next piece, in this path to success is creating an ecosystem for input. And so we mentioned before about getting the right people in the room. This is, this group is community partners, the broader community, the maintenance team, the design team, teachers, school leadership, students. We call it FNF students in the room, which is fun. They're the smartest people there. The admin and nurses, construction team, as well as food service team. And so we for these kind of projects, we quite often have a broader group of people that we're engaging with. And we also have a broader collection of meetings that we have along the way. For example, during programming, not only do we have programming meetings that talk about kind of size, scale, use, we also have programming meetings that are just dedicated to MEP. Then we also have program meetings that are dedicated to sustainability, and and those meetings are really focused on right sizing the systems and the approach to the needs of the school and to the project. And so we're not over providing or under providing. And so it helps us through the lens of being energy efficient, just right sizing everything to suit the need. Good example of that is, in food service, we, quite often for these schools, we're generally doing all electric kitchens. They're more efficient, and they also just eliminate the need for fossil fuels. So the other piece we wanted to highlight in this slide was just about being transparent, which which I think we kind of all know what that means, but also about being careful with our language. As I mentioned before, I think that quite often groups get anxious about words like sustainability and high performance, and so if those are challenging words, we don't use them. In a room like this, I will say sustainability and high performance, but in rooms with our client groups, I quite often just say healthy, energy efficient, and cost responsible, because it's just, they're words that don't have, I think, a stigma or fear that that make client groups anxious. So that was my point about being careful with language.
So you've got your team together, you've got your building being built, you're starting to turn over. We want to validate the performance of the mechanical systems, of the envelope, of your solar PVs, make sure everything is running as you designed it, as your sequences in the drawings show, and really test this and look at the energy bills. You can't get to net zero, can't get to those low EUIs without looking at your actual energy bills. Um, and so you want to test that. You want to test, commission, and calibrate all of your systems. So doing a blower door test and thermal imaging are fantastic ways to test your envelope, to understand and mitigate challenges where you might have leaks or holes, and being able to exploit that and have a known data point can help you further into going and when you start looking at your EUIs and your energy performance down the road. So kind of looking back at our case studies from Banneker and John Lewis, right now Banneker is performing at a 21 EUI, has 950 kW photovoltaic array. We've avoided 880 metric tons of CO2 per year. We have 25 miles of geothermal, an overall 62% reduction from the commercial buildings energy consumption survey. John Lewis Elementary, another case study we mentioned earlier, is performing at a 16 EUI with the geothermal water source heat pumps. And we have 660 or 650 kW photovoltaic array on that school, a 63% reduction in your CBEC score. And then Bard Early High School is performing at a 22 EUI, 630 kW photovoltaic array going at that on that, and a 61% reduction in your CBEC score. Hopefully Forestall will be up there as well. It's currently finishing construction, so we don't have actual performed data on that, but we're going through those steps of testing the mechanical HVAC systems and really understanding how it is performing and setting it up to make sure that we did our blower door tests and our thermal imaging and these tests overall in the grand scheme of things, they do add cost to the project, but it's minuscule in terms of the overall cost and the overall life cycle cost of the building.
So as we mentioned, there are pleasant surprises along the way. For one is, we're meeting with a broader group of people. We're meeting more often. We're also doing something that maybe some people in the room haven't done before. So there's sort of the anxiety of something new. And what happens along the way within all the more collaboration, the more input that we have together is that we build more trust within that group, enhancing community, strengthening our relationships. And what's interesting, what we found is that one is, sure, that our client groups have stronger relationships with us along the way, which is great. But what actually is most meaningful and most important are the relationship of the community partners with the school leadership, with the broader community, with the school district in itself, the school district, as well as the actual school staff, the teachers. And so all of this, all of those relationships get stronger through projects like this. And so that's one of the most beautiful things that happens. It's just we get stronger as a team. And so it becomes a success for everyone in the room, which is fantastic. And building trust, enhancing community, strengthening relationships. The other piece is that quite often we use these buildings as a teaching tool. What's on those images on the upper right there are an interactive display at John Lewis Elementary. That's the elementary school we highlighted at the beginning. And it has this really great analogy that correlates the human bodies, the systems of the human body with the systems of a building. For example, the structural system, our structural skeleton as humans correlated with the structural system of the building. The nervous system of our bodies with the electrical system of our buildings, um, the lungs of our bodies with the mechanical system of the building. And the kids love this stuff. And so they love, and this interactive display also shows tracks the energy usage along the way. And so the students, they love to see how much energy they're using or not using. And they, and quite often, students will, the classes will turn their lights off because the daylighting is great in the rooms for one. But then two is they just want to see the energy usage go down because they all had the lights off in the school. And so it's just sort of fun. It's just sort of fun as a teaching tool and an approach. So.
So, appreciate everyone for tuning in today. There were one thing I wanted to touch on was we got in there one of the barriers about not being in the mission of the RFP or the project, or maybe they didn't ask for a really high sustainable school. John Lewis, that case study, um, that's that building started out as only requiring a lead silver. And then as a design team, we came together and said we can do more than that for the budget that's allowed. And so I would challenge all of us as design professionals to perform that life cycle cost analysis, to dig a little deeper, to if it's not in the mission, can it be our mission? Can we provide a better solution for our clients and our owners, and provide a simpler possible solution there, and provide our owners and clients some better outcomes and some better services. And so that's what I would leave to challenge everyone to try and do. And I hope that you all got some little tidbits here to help overcome some of the barriers and hurdles that you're having on projects. And again, really appreciate everyone for tuning in today.
All right, well, go ahead. There's some really great questions in the Q&A, and if you have a question, make sure you add it there, or if you see something that uh, you would like for the speakers to answer, please thumbs it up, and it'll kind of raise it up on our list. And Nolan, you're welcome to stop sharing your screen if you'd like, just so folks can see your face. But the first question, we got a few questions about tax credits and incentives, and so maybe just kind of combining them all together. Could you guys speak a little bit to the kind of current state of those, knowing that there's been some adjustments over the last year, and how complicated they may be to pursue?
Yeah. No, do
Yeah,
you want to answer? Or do you want me to answer?
yeah, I can start with that. So basically, as I currently understand it, I think the green energy tax credits are running out in 2029 or 2020 or 2030. And there's definitely a possibility for those to be extended. And currently, I think you have to have your project under construction by, I think, July 4th of 2027. Those dates might be different. But so basically, you're supplying a different form for your owner when they file their taxes, that they'll have this form, and providing an itemized kind of receipt basically of everything that touched the geothermal system or was included on the solar PVs, to be included for that tax rebate. And you need to make sure and understand, kind of read through that language during design to make sure you understand what's being touched and what's in there. We've provided some language in our specs so that way the contractors are keeping track of their costs throughout the project. And then you need to know if you're having what is it the labor wages and different things with that. And so it's, I would say difficulty wise, it's not terribly difficult. You just need to make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
And quite often what we do, we recommend to school districts that they couple engage a dedicated attorney for this. The fees for this are sort of probably mid five figures, I guess is probably a good rule of thumb. But you probably need an attorney's help to help you along the way. Which Nolan, I think you guys retain someone like that on staff all the time, which is great. But other some sophisticated school districts may just tackle that topic by themselves. So they
Right. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that Nolan's right that the current generation of the green energy tax credits, I think, are sunsetting in 2029. But I mean, hopefully, I think that those will be extended at some point. So, fingers crossed.
All right, the next question is, how much metering do you recommend for a project? And additional metering beyond the code can add to the first cost. So can you speak a little to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely say you want to use those meters to understand what's going on with your mechanical system. In the case of a geothermal system, understanding your BTUs running through your well field and then through your building. And then definitely always like to track water as well. Um, and as you're going through the process, think about what meters would help me understand this building better. Do you want that domestic hot water meter? Do you want your um, meter going to a different wing of the building? How are you monitoring your kitchen hot water loads? Um, and I would encourage you to really think about that and what you want to understand from your building. Um, so that's kind of a vague answer there, but like definitely think about what you want to meter and what data that is going to bring to you in the future to help you design better buildings.
All right, I'm going to kind of combine two questions that are a little related. How do you justify the higher upfront cost to a client if they have a strict budget? And kind of related to that, how do you handle the cost of the additional effort required post-construction with the cost-sensitive owners?
I think that this cost question is a really important one, and I think that I think we just sort of take the cost topic head on with every project. I think the argument, what's great for schools and say higher ed projects and healthcare is that these are owner groups that will own these buildings for a long time, which makes the cost argument really strong for them because it's like, oh, if you're going to own a building for 30 years or 50 years, it's ultimately that you're just going to save a lot more money with the systems that Nolan and I were talking about today. If we own a building for a much shorter period of time, the ROI becomes less compelling, I guess. If you're going to sort of turn and burn, it's not as effective. That said, I mean, the ingredient that's sort of interesting in all this is just the green energy tax credits. One of the things that was so great about the graph that Nolan was talking about is that basically it's the ROI if you get a green energy tax credits was basically zero. It was basically just the time for us to sort of submit get the data and submit it. So can be really quick. But I guess my point in all of that was just is taking the cost conversation head on, get the right people in the room to make the right informed decisions out of the gate. So
Yeah, I would just add to that, being transparent with all of those decisions helps build trust. Part of that back end happy endings kind of thing. So building trust in your owner there, and then I had another thought. I just lost it. Yeah.
that's good. But anyway,
If you,
take those cost conversations really important. That's probably the most important topic to take on. So I think it deserves a robust analysis and consideration and transparency with our client and our ownership groups.
All right, the next question is, and this came up when you guys had that timeline slide up, but I
Yep.
think you could also address it a little more broadly, are these timelines all assuming new build or renovations, or is there any difference in what you had presented between when you're doing new construction versus working within an existing building?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about schools is that the phasing is always so important. Even when you're doing a new build, it's quite often a site that a school already sits on, and we might just be building the new school on the playing fields and then tearing down the old school at some point and sort of flipping the use of the site usage. And so the phasing is really, really important for school projects. And so that really is what sets the timeline as much as anything. And so that and the I mean, whether it's a new build or a renovation, it's really, is the school currently occupied now? Will it be occupied during construction? In what capacity? I think all of those are, um, considerations. It's hard to make a generalized answer to that, other than to say that what we found most effective is just to build a long ramp to be successful. I think that the renovation project that we highlighted here was Bard in DC. I think that had a roughly the same timeline that we showed in the slide, if that's helpful.
Yep.
All right, and then the last question is if oh, I just lost it. What was the compliance path used to meet IECC 2024? And or we've already talked a little bit about credits, but maybe if there's any differentiators working on the specifically Forestall in Illinois that was specific to Illinois itself.
Yeah, honestly, one of the biggest things there was our energy efficiency from the mechanical system, which got us quite a lot of points. And then honestly, the tight envelope there as well, um, really helped us out. We had a DOAS unit, so supplying that direct, fresh outside air, kind of lended itself to quite a few points through there as well.
Um, we basically have 2 minutes left. Is it, we need to
Yeah,
switch?
I think we have to pass it over to Twyla. Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, Josh and Nolan, for sharing with our members in our network. And thank you, Jessica, for leading that awesome Q&A. There are a lot of questions still in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'm going to collect those and pass them on to Josh and Nolan and see if they'll have some time to answer a few of them off screen, and I can include that in our follow-up as well. You'll all be getting an email from us with follow-up with this recording with information about how to report or to request reporting for AIA and for self-reporting for your lead upkeep. And I just wanted to leave everyone with one extra resource to consider. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and show you all a really cool resource to consider for schools that might be it's just starting their journey. So the before we close, school buildings that are looking to start their journey could consider the Illinois public school carbon-free assessment programs that ComEd and Ameren both offer. They're no cost and they provide schools with reports, incentives, and roadmaps to help you on your journey. K through 12 public school customers in the ComEd and Ameren territories can sign up to receive free facility assessments for their school districts. Those cover opportunities to reduce energy use, cut operating costs, and support long-term carbon-free planning across school facilities. So it's a really simple and free way to identify practical improvements and build a roadmap for future projects. And again, at no cost to your district. So I'll also share a little bit more information about these programs in our follow-up email as well. So once again, I just want to thank everyone for attending, and you will be receiving follow-up from us. Thank you again, Josh and Nolan and Jessica. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.